Rambam. We are learning the laws of Avodah Zorah, the laws of idolatry. Ooh, heavy duty. Oh. And we're doing chapter 11. And we're going to chapter 11. Okay. We may not follow the statutes of idolaters or resemble them in their style of dress.
I looked at that first sentence,
hence your question.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. I thought you were prophetic.
Well, I could claim that, but
Yes. Then you'll be a false prophet. Then we'd have to have the previous chapters. uh, okay. Or the like, as it states in uh, coming parsha, actually. Do not, 2 weeks. Do not follow the statutes of the nation that I'm driving out before you, right? The Canaanites. As it states, do not follow their statutes, as it says, right? Be careful lest you inquire after them, right? All of these verses share a single theme. They warn us not to try to resemble the non-Jews, right? Instead, the Jews should be separate from them and distinct in their dress and their deeds, as they are in their ideals and character traits. In this context, the verse says, I have separated you from the nations to be mine, right? So we are a nation that dwells alone out of choice. And one of the ways we express that is in the way we dress. So that gives you an indication, like, right away about why Hasidim dress the way they do, right? Thus, one may not wear a garment which is unique to them and grow the tresses of their hair as they do. We may not shave our heads from the sides and leave hair in the center as they do. This is called a bloris.
I don't get what it's saying there. Say don't shave the center of your head, but then it's
like here and leave like a troop over here, like leave big over here. That's the way they did back then.
Well, don't some people still do that?
Huh?
Don't some like Hasidim still do that? Like the Satmar or something, they like.
No, it's all equal. And others not don't leave like a big
Well, like Mohawk. Call a Mohawk today.
Right, a mohawk. Okay. Right. And here, like it said here, shaving from the sides and leaving hair in the center, right?
Yeah.
Mohawk. Okay. In rabbinic terms, or it's called the bloris. We may not shave the hair on the front of our faces from ear to ear and leave the growth on the back of our heads as they do. Right. In other words, shave here, but leave back here. Right? We may not build temples in order that many people may enter as they do. Whoever performs one of the above or a deed of this nature is liable for lashes.
But don't you have like huge like event halls or like shuls or like the giant shuls in Israel or whatever or in New York where you can fill like tons of people in it?
Yeah, but it's dedicated for a shul.
So what do they mean by stadium? Like a sport venue, a place for a lot of people to assemble?
And that's a good question. And it's not used for mitzvahs. It's being used like a stadium, like a coliseum, right? Like a sports stadium. A sports stadium might fall under that, right?
But if you're doing it for a mitzvah, like if you're going to like have a bunch of people at like the big baseball stadium in New York, you know how they have those events where they have like
Right.
a bunch of
Yeah. So you're doing it for a mitzvah. You're not doing it for idolatrous purposes. When a Jew is cutting an idolatrous hair, he must stop when he approaches 3 fingers from his bloris on all sides. Right. In other words, not to make like a Jew, who has an important position in a Gentile kingdom and must sit before their kings and would be embarrassed if he did not resemble them, is granted permission to wear clothes which resembles theirs and to shave his hair on his face as they do. Why? Why would that be?
Well, it seems like they should still be, I don't know why there'd be the exception to this.
Because um, he's going to benefit the Jewish community by being on the inside rather than, if he will not be like them, right, then he won't be able to benefit the community, right?
There's a greater good to it.
Yeah. Hmm. Okay. All right. Now we're going into idolatrous practices. It's forbidden to practice soothsayers as idolaters do. As it says, do not act as soothsayers. What is meant by soothsayer? For example, those who say, this, since my piece of bread fell out of my mouth, or my staff fell from my hand, I will not travel to this place today, since if I were to go, I would not be able to accomplish my desires. Since the fox passed on my right side, I will not go out of my door today, since if I were to go out, I would meet a deceiver, right? Similarly, this category, that's a soothsayer, includes those who hear the chirping of a bird and say, this will happen or this will not happen. It's beneficial to do this or it's detrimental to do this. Also, it includes those who say, slaughter this rooster that crowed like a raven, slaughter this hen when it crowed like a rooster. Similarly, a person who sets up omens for himself, if this and this happens, I will do this. If it will not happen, I will not do it. As Elazar, the servant of Abraham, did, and the things of the like, all this is forbidden. Anyone who does one of these things because such omens is liable for lashes. Psh. Second. Whole debate over here, I was wondering, because what Eliezer did was seemingly correct. And here the Rambam, so there's a whole debate about this. And most commentators, they exonerate Eliezer for what he did. But it seems like the Rambam, and the halacha doesn't seem to go according to the Rambam on this. Interesting. Concerning this, in other words, because what did he say? He said if a girl comes and she will say, I'll give you water and I'll give your camels water. Oh, that's the one for my servant for Yitzchak, right? For Avram's son. So it's an omen, right? But I think they explain it. It's not really an omen. It's this person's really kind, and that's the kind of person that we need for Yitzchak. I think So that's a big debate on this. Okay, a different ruling applies when a person says, this dwelling which I built will be good omen for me. This woman whom I married or an animal that I purchased was blessed from the time I purchased it and I have become rich. Same applies to a person, right? Why is that? Because it's something that happened, right? Rather than you're going to make your choices based on what happened. Same applies to a person who rejoices and claims this is a good omen when he asks a child, which verse are you studying? And the child reads him a verse of blessing. This is this and the like are permitted, since a person did not perform an act or hold himself back from performing an act because of the omen. All he did was consider something that had already happened as a sign.
You're not
What?
changing your behavior.
Yeah. What is meant by a diviner? This refers to a person who performs certain deeds to cause him to fall into a trance and have his mind cleared of all thoughts until he can predict the future, saying, this will happen or this will not happen, or saying, it is proper to do such and such, be careful to do so. Right. There are some diviners who use sand or stones to obtain their answers. Others prostrate themselves on the ground, make strange motions and scream. Others look at metal or a crystal mirror, fantasize and speak. Still others carry a staff and lean on it and tap with it until they fall into a trance and speak. This is what the prophet meant by saying, my people will inquire of their rods or staffs will tell them. It is forbidden to diviner to inquire of a diviner. A person who inquires of a diviner or is given stripes of rebelliousness. That's a rabbinic law. In contrast, the diviner himself is punished by lashes if he performs one of the above or other similar acts, as the verse says, there shall not be found among you one who passes or practices divination. Right. So that's a biblical transgression, right? Who is a fortune teller? A person who tries to predict auspicious times using astrology and saying this day will be a good day, right? This day will be a bad day. It is appropriate to perform a particular task on a certain day, or this year, this month will not be opportune for this particular matter. It is forbidden to tell fortunes. This applies even though one does not perform a deed, but merely relates to the falsehoods which the fools consider to be the words of truth and wisdom. Anyone who performs a deed because of an astrological calculation or arranges his work or journeys to fit a time that was suggested by the astrologers is liable for lashes. As it states, do not tell fortunes. Also included in the scope of this prohibition is one who performs magic tricks and deludes those who observe him into thinking that he performs wonders, although he is not doing so. He is liable for lashes. Who is a person who casts spells? A person who chants incantations that have no meaning in people's speech or any connotation or imagines in his foolish perception that his words have an effect. Such people will say, if I cast a particular spell on a snake or a scorpion, they will not harm you. If you cast a particular spell on a person, he will never be harmed. Some of them will hold a key or a rock in their hands while they are talking and perform other similar deeds. All of these are forbidden.
Do we know if any of these things that we've been reading about for the last chapter, if like they had any sort of, they could achieve something, but it was just wrong that they were achieving it like in that way?
So there's debate about that, and the Rambam seems to be of the opinion no. Other say yes. It's just a Jew is not limited to astrology, not limited to the creative process. So in the creative process, that there is such, realities, right? There is such realities, right? There is a constellation. We do believe in the constellations, right?
Yeah.
That's the 12 tribes. Those are the constellations. Right. We just came from Pisces, fish. That's Adar, right? Month of Adar.
But we're not assigning like.
But we're not bound by it. The Jew is not bound by it, therefore it's a prohibition. There's a prohibition for a Jew. It's not a prohibition for a non-Jew.
So non-Jews can do all this stuff?
Non-Jews can do this stuff. A Jew can't go to them, can't use them, because we're not limited to it. I don't know. And whatever. Okay. So if he holds anything in his hand or performs an act while speaking, even if he merely gestures with his finger, as it states, there shall not be found among you one who casts spells. If, however, the person merely spoke without moving his finger or his head and without holding anything in his hand, and similarly, person who has a spell cast upon him through the utterance of such incantations, thinking that this will help him, he's given stripes of rebelliousness. In others, it's rabbinic, not biblical, because
So that's lashes.
he participated in the foolish activities of spellcaster. What?
That's lashes, but from rabbinic origin.
Exactly. Because there's no action involved. There has to be an action involved in order to be a biblical prohibition.
Really? So there's no biblical prohibition that doesn't have an action attached to it?
No, there's prohibitions.
Yeah.
Lashes won't
Oh,
be.
lashes.
Lashes, you need to have an act,
Okay.
right? If if you believe in idolatry in your heart and you don't express it in any way, right, you're not going to get lashes for it. Is there a prohibition? Yes,
Yeah.
but you won't get lashes. You have to do some kind of act to be liable for lashes. All these deplorable incantations and strange names will not do harm, nor will they bring any benefit. See, he says there clearly.
Yeah.
Right. When a person has been bitten by a scorpion or a snake, it is permitted to recite incantations over the bite. How come? This is permitted even on Shabbos in order to settle his mind and strengthen his feelings, even though the incantations are of no avail, since the victim's life is in danger. Permission was granted lest he become overly disturbed. So it's like halach on Shabbos. Excuse me, I gotta stretch my legs a bit. Halach on Shabbos said of a pregnant woman who's blind says, light a candle for me, right? You do it, but she can't see. Doesn't matter. Because she is pregnant and she is in the birthing, she's in a place of sakana, of distress. And because of that distress, you can do things for her, right, that will be psychologically helpful, right? So you can light a candle, even though that's only psychological, it's not physical in any way because she's blind. Right. It's the same thing over here. A person got bitten and they're really real upset and distressed. So you can do this in order just to alleviate that, right? Now, interesting. I want to see over here because I'm wondering what does that mean that you can recite incantations? I mean, is I think it must be, hold on. By the way, we see over here halachically interesting how much placebo effect is part of healing.
Yeah.
If there was no effect of placebo, because what? Because just because the person's distraught, what's it going to do with the bite? No, the fact that that itself has a placebo effect on the healing of the individual, right?
Unless the bitten person knows Rambam and remembers this verse.
So so interesting. Because you can, in other words, why could you do this? Because it's not idolatry, though. It is part of idol worship, but it's not idolatry. You couldn't go to an idol and pray to the idol for that person, right? Because that's idolatry. That you can't do. But this is a consequence of idolatry, right? This is not idolatry itself, right? So that's why you could be able to do it in order because what you're doing is helping to save their life.
Yeah.
Because, going mad or anxious and upset because of the bite is just going to make it worse.
Yeah.
Halacha 12, a person who whispers an incantation over a wound and then recites a verse of Torah, who recites a verse over a child so that they will not be scared, or places a Torah scroll or a tefillin over a baby so that they will sleep, is considered to be a soothsayer or one who casts spells. Furthermore, such people are included among those who deny Torah because they relate to the words of Torah as they are cures for the body, when in fact they are cures for the soul. As it states, they shall be a life for your soul. It is, however, permitted to a healthy person to read verses from the Bible, from the Torah or chapters of Psalms, of Tehillim, so the merit of the reading them will protect him and save him from difficulties and injury. That makes sense, right? In other words, you're doing it so, I should be healed,
Yeah.
right? I should be saved or
So
whatever.
you can do
That's not soothsaying.
Yeah. What soothsaying is if you're taking like the physical objects of like Torah worship and you're like ascribing that they themselves are going to heal you.
Exactly. One who seeks information from the dead. Who is that? Or it's another prohibition. A person who starves himself and goes to sleep in a cemetery so the deceased person will come to him in a dream and a reply to his questions. There are others who wear special clothes, recite incantations, burn a particular type of incense, and sleep alone so that the deceased person will come to them and speak to them in a dream. To summarize, anyone who performs a deed in order that the deceased person should come to him and give him information is liable for lashes. As it states, there shall not be found among you one who passes, one who seeks information from the dead. Lacha 14 is forbidden to inquire of a person who practices divination of an oiver yidyaini. There shall not be found among you one who passes, one who seeks information from an oiver for yidyaini. Thus, a person who practices divination of an oiver yidyaini himself is stoned to death. And a person who inquires of them violates a negative commandment and receives stripes of rebellion, says one who plans his deeds and acts according to their instructions is liable for lashes. A sorcerer must condemn execution by stoning. Must be condemned, right? If he's a sorcerer, he will, right? If there's two witnesses and he's warned, right? This applies when he commits a deed of sorcery. If, however, he merely deludes those who observe him into thinking he's performing an act, although he actually does not, he's given stripe for rebelliousness. Why? Because remember, you only get biblical punishment when, right? When you did an action, right? You did the action, but here you're just, kind of deluding someone else as if the reason that this prohibition against sorcery is stated in the prohibition, they shall not be found among you one who practice sorcery. It is, however, a prohibition which is punishable by execution by the court, as it states, do not allow a witch to live, therefore lashes are not administered for its violation. 16. All the above matters of falsehood and lies with which the original idolaters deceived the Gentile nations in order to lead them after them. I remember at the beginning of Rambam, we spoke about how it devolved idolatry, right? So, so he's making reference to that, right? It is not fitting for the Jews who have white sages to be drawn into such emptiness, nor to consider that they have any value, as implied from the verse, no black magic can be found among Jacob, or occult arts within Israel, right? Meaning the Jewish people. Similarly, the states, these nations which you are driving out, listen to astrologers and diviners. This is not what God has granted you.
If doing this idol worship goes against the 7 Noahide laws, right?
Yes.
So then why is it like okay for the Gentiles to? I guess wait, I should say
It's not
okay.
it's not idolatry. It's not, you're not serving it. You're using it as a medium to find out information. That's not idolatry. It's idolatrous in nature.
Yeah, it's not idolatry.
But it's not idolatry. You're not serving it. No. The very narrow, right, definition of being right. Even though, one second.
Clearly a slippery slope.
So this is you're only getting executed if you're a Jew.
Yeah, because why would we be executing non-Jews? We never do that, right? There's never like
No, I mean, if a Jew's being a sorcerer, then he will get executed. Yeah. But it seems to me that it's only for a Jew, I think. You know, if a non-Jew was doing it in outside of Israel, for example, if it was done in Israel, that's a different story because then you're bringing impurity to the land. That's different, right? That's different,
Okay.
right? Um, I don't know what the law is exactly, but you know, but it's not outright idolatry. You're not serving it.
Yeah.
You're using it as a means, as a medium.
Yeah.
That's different
Idolatrous.
than right. That's very different.
This is what probably my friend said.
Right. That's why it's in the laws of idolatry, but it's the peripheral of it.
Yeah.
So a Jew not allowed at all. Right. I don't know. Yeah. I think, yeah, non-Jew. Well, let's see. Maybe he's going to speak about all the above matters of false and lies and original idolaters deceive the Gentiles nations, delete them. Okay, we did that. Whoever believes in the occult arts and nature and of this nature, and his heart thinks that they are true and words of wisdom, but are forbidden by Torah, is foolish and feeble-minded. He's considered like a woman and children who have undeveloped intellects. Ooh, that's not the PC.
Not PC at all.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, well.
We're gonna have to cut that from the broadcast. Or YouTube's gonna demonetize you.
All right, yeah, shut me down. Okay, plug your ears. Massive, those of perfect knowledge know with clear proof that all of these crafts which the Torah forbade and are not reflections of wisdom, but rather emptiness and vanity, which attracted the feeble-minded and caused them to abandon all the passive truths. For these reasons, when Torah warned against all these empty matters, it advised, be perfect faith with God, your Lord. Psh. Okay, we're going to stop here. All right, folks. Thank you.